us now, as he joins us every week, the foreign editor at The Australian, Greg Sheridan. Greg, the Trump show continues, albeit in a very unusual way there in New York tomorrow.
Yes, Kieran. So I think this is a shocking turn for America. One of the worst things that's happened since the beginning of the Trump era. This is a terrible abuse of process. Trump certainly paid Stormy Daniels $130,000. He may have misreported it. Perhaps it should have been taxed. But this is a grotesquely trivial matter to charge a former president with. Local prosecutors don't normally prosecute alleged breaches of federal laws. That's up to the Federal Justice Department. The Federal Justice Department in the United States has declined to bring charges against Trump. This prosecutor, Bragg, this district attorney, his predecessor, declined to bring charges against Trump. This is such a serious matter, and it's such to bring charges against a former president. It's going to divide the nation, tear the nation apart. I think Democrats are doing it on purpose. They don't care whether there's a conviction or not. Although they claim they detest Trump, they want Trump to be the centre of the national conversation so that they can run against Trump instead of running on Joe Biden's record. And I'd make this comparison. Bill Clinton had an affair with Monica Lewinsky and lied about it under oath. It's not a crime to have an affair. It's certainly a crime to lie about it under oath. The defence was this was too trivial a matter to lose the presidency over. If Bill Clinton can lie about his affair under oath, Donald Trump can pay his hush money to his porn star. It's unbelievably sordid, but it is a terrible day in American democracy, and this district attorney should hang his head in shame.
But in the political sense, I think you alluded to it, it boosts Trump's prospects in those Republican primaries. You've seen the flood of support from Republican quarters towards him. Yeah,
and this is why what the Democrats are doing is so dangerous. It is so plainly unfair and ridiculous and an abusive process that even Republicans who don't like Trump, Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, who had said he was running partly because Trump was all chaos and all dysfunction, he has said as governor of Florida he wouldn't participate in the extradition request from the state of New York. So you've got, the second biggest state in America saying that it won't process the extradition requests of the third biggest state. But it so outrages Republicans that it means it's more likely that Trump becomes the nominee. Now, the Democrats think that's a stroke of genius, that they'll run against Trump and they'll win again. But, elections are incredibly unpredictable. If Trump is the candidate for the Republicans, there's got to be a real chance that he wins the presidency. Whereas the Republicans looked as though they were going to get past Trump and leave him in the past, it's the Democrats who are now contriving to put Trump front and centre and to make him the nominee in a move which is absolutely as cynical and as reckless as anything that Trump himself has done. And it almost makes you despair about American politics.
The move by the federal government today, banning the use of TikTok, that app, on government devices, makes sense. Is it overdue?
No, I think this is a really good move by the Albanese government. I don't mind that they went last on this one. Australia went first on banning Huawei from 5G. We don't have to be first every time to take a security action against a Chinese entity. The Chinese are in a charm offensive with the Albanese government. They were communicating on Chinese social media what a great fellow Dan Andrews was during the week of the Aston by-election campaign, in a hope that this would influence the 15% of Aston voters who are of Chinese background. Not sure that it did that. And there was some advice which we revealed in The Australian from the Prime Minister's Department saying if you do this, it'll look like you're singling out Chinese companies. But the Albanese government had unequivocal advice from its security agencies that TikTok was a security risk and it would be prudent to ban it on government phones. So once again, the Albanese government has done the right thing by national security at the same time as it's trying to pursue a calm relationship with China. A few weeks back, it got rid of Chinese manufactured surveillance cameras on government department buildings and so forth. So time after time, I'm not exactly a softie on China, But every time the Albanese government does the right thing, and I think we're certainly well advised to give the Albanese government some latitude in timing. So, you know, it may be that the Chinese government can convince the Albanese government to go soft eventually, but there's no sign of it so far. From nuclear submarines to TikTok, this government has made every national security call right, in my opinion.
And when it comes to managing the two channels of that relationship, both the security and the economic and constructive relationship with China, I just noticed this afternoon a story out of the South China Morning Post that China has issued an in-principle invitation to Anthony Albanese to visit Beijing, and the dates that the South China Morning Post referred to, most likely September or October. So that would see a further thaw in relations if that were to eventuate, Greg.
That's right. Now, I don't think we should get too fussed about the bilateral relationship, to be honest with you, Kieran. I may be in a minority of analysts here. Nothing we do really has much effect on the bilateral relationship. This is Beijing making its own internal decisions, that it's moved globally from a wolf warrior outlook, which did it so much harm and revealed the true nature of China to Western electorates all over the world. Now it's moving back into its charm offensive. But underlying all that, the deep strategic reality hasn't changed. They still mount cyber attacks on us every day. They still penetrate Japanese and Taiwanese airspace every day. They still threaten our ships and planes if we get anywhere near their illegally claimed and illegally built artificial islands in the South China Sea. They're still trying to interfere in our politics every day. All of that strategic reality has not changed. There's a danger that with, you know, people like Paul Keating advocating the Chinese government position within the Labor Party and them doing a charm offensive with the Albanese government, that we wrongly prioritise the bilateral relationship as such. But even all the years of their wolf warrior hostility to the Morrison government, we lost very little. We lost a little bit of trade, but almost nothing. But I've got to pay tribute to the Albanese government. They have calmed the relationship down, whatever was necessary from our end, just not using such, high-octane rhetoric. But they've kept all the decisions of substance going. AUKUS, the Quad, banning TikTok, all the rest of it. So if they invite Albo in September and he goes there, that's great. He can have a handshake and a hug with Xi Jinping. That's fantastic. But we mustn't ever think that that means the deep strategic contradiction between Beijing, which still wants a military base in the South Pacific, which would radically compromise our national security. The contradiction between their interests and our interests continues, and our government has to manage it calmly and well, which is exactly what it's doing so far.